I realize I've been talking about Wano a lot lately, and of course because we're in Wano and it's a lot going on in Wano, but Jesus man, it's time to talk about something else. So let's talk about Sabo, because the Reverie had been, one of the best moments or the best arcs. Some people don't consider it an arc because they feel like it wasn't long enough, but I think the Reverie and the moments in the Reverie, some of the best stuff in a long time in One Piece. Because of just the series of events that happened in the Reverie, it's reminiscent to probably Sabaody, where it had so many characters and so many different storylines, and man, it blew me away personally. So it's a lot of things to get to in the Reverie that I haven't talked about. I really haven't even talked about M-sama yet. And M-sama is one of the more interesting characters in One Piece because he or she has like the most power in One Piece that we know of. Not physically, I'm talking about its political power, because sometimes political power can trump physical power tenfold. I mean, just having the power of the world government at your fingertips, that's pretty insane. So we're not talking about that today. We're going to focus on Sabo. Exactly what do you think happened to Sabo at the Reverie? Now, there's a few things to iron out because the timeline is a bit messed up, a bit confusing. So we want to clear that up in this video. Trying to understand Sabo a bit more as a character to determine what choices he could possibly make. And 3, I think I've come to 2 conclusions in regards to what happened. And I mean, that's based off of just not only the reactions, but just Sabo in general and things that were said at the Reverie beforehand. So what I want you to do before we continue, because this has been a thing going forward for a while now in the videos, tell me what you think happened to Sabo. Like, based on everything you've read, Sabo as a character, what do you think happened at the Reverie to Sabo? Just put that in the comment section. We'll see if we agree and we're consistent on the same things as far as him as a character and his goals as a revolutionary. For Sabo, it's remained consistent, right? Of course, he's a fireman with like really strong fingers, but Sabo from introduction, well, not from introduction, from reintroduction, because Sabo, meeting him again, of course, he's a different character. He's lost his memory and he's back now. Based on his reintroduction, he has a different vibe to him. Of course, back then with him, the ASL pirates, they were kids, and over time you grow and you change. Sabo, based on how he's changed, has become a pretty maniacal character. What I mean is, in Sabo's interactions with certain characters, particularly in Dressrosa, you saw a different side to him that people appreciated because it was something you expected from someone who had been basically put through the ringer by the world government. Remember, Sabo was someone who was abused by his siblings and parents because he didn't live up to what a world noble was supposed to be, ran wild in Great Terminal with Ace and Luffy, and ultimately was shot and his ship was blown up by a celestial dragon. So he's seen the worst of the worst when it comes to the world government and the nobles, the celestial dragons who rule the world. So Sabo, based on his growth and his development, he has become a revolutionary, and his entire goal is to topple that system. Well, I'm not being entirely truthful here because that's a lie. That's not his entire goal. One of his goals as well is to protect his younger brother. Several times in Dressrosa, Sabo mentioned, well, guys, I'm Sabo of the Revolutionary Army. I am the brother of Ace and Luffy, and my goal, no matter where I am, no matter my position, I will use my position to come to Luffy's aid whenever he might need it. In particular, he was talking to Burgess about this, but he mentioned it to Fujitora and even Bastille. The Ace thing obviously traumatized him because you would expect, if someone that you really care about dies, you were incapable of helping, and it's because you just lost your memory. And basically, that person's death jogged your memory. For Sabo, he doesn't want to live through that again, so he's really intent on protecting Luffy. Protected him from Burgess after Luffy ran out of haki and stamina. He stopped Burgess, and then he basically flexed on Bastille, and then he stopped, quote unquote, stopped Fujitora. And I say quote unquote because he even mentioned that Fujitora was being oblivious to the situation and was playing around, and Fujitora basically admitted it by saying, oh, I don't know, man, I'm just a blind man. That's clear with Sabo. His goals to topple the world government. He honors himself and his position and respects himself and position as a revolutionary, but also Luffy's well-being matters. That's consistent throughout his reintroduction. And of course, beforehand, he cared about Luffy, as a child, but now it's even deeper. So now that's established who Sabo is, as far as Luffy's interests and them mattering to him, his position as a revolutionary, it speaks not only to him as a character, right, and how he's grown, but also Sabo's a bit of a hothead. What I mean is Sabo, sometimes he reacts on impulse because of, again, a traumatic history and maybe a bit of confidence in power and strength with Burgess. I'm going to point out a few instances in which Sabo showed a side that as a viewer you come to appreciate because he's a bit antagonistic. Okay, what I mean is the Burgess thing. When Burgess is about to capture Luffy or to attack Luffy and take his devil fruit power when Sabo tried to stop Burgess. Burgess says, I have no quarrel with the revolutionaries, right? None. He did not want any smoke with Sabo. He was good. He was all right. He didn't want to fight Sabo at all. And Sabo could have been like, oh, okay, that's fine. Just don't mess with Luffy. And then Sabo says, not even personally, and shows that he has the Mera no Mi. He was basically antagonizing him, saying, you don't have any problems with me? Are you sure about that? Not even personally? And shows the flame. This shows Sabo's not only, again, his antagonistic side, but a side of confidence, showing that, no, I want you to attack me. And then it basically was him trying to confirm intel, because after Burgess saw that he had the Flare no Mi, which was his goal at the end of the day, Sabo said, oh, so now you're interested, which basically means that our intel was correct. You guys are hunting devil fruit users. So that was really cool on Sabo's end. It was basically killing two birds with one stone, no Karasu. And versus Bastille, his way of doubling down on who he was and what he represented was basically saying his clause was made for tearing apart the authority of an arrogant government. Again, which is representative of his past and everything he went through. We all remember this moment in which he was saying to Bastille, a mere human skull will be as easy to crush as an egg, which he's saying, I could kill you right now if I so choose. Again, which shows a bit of a darker side to Sabo's personality. So that exists, but I think he's more so showing them that he could be dark, or he could go that route if need be. I don't think Sabo has a problem with actually killing someone based on his personality, what he's been through, and what he's shown. So with all that being said, we head to the Reverie, and the goal of the Reverie at this point, because Dragon and Sabo, they had a conversation, one of the goals at the Reverie was to actually declare war. So in chapter 904, we see a conversation between Sabo and Dragon says, they should firm up their plans because the goal of this Reverie is to declare war, simply to declare war. Of course, that led to numerous speculations as to what declaring war meant on the side of Dragon, because Dragon, I don't think he's a pacifist, obviously, but I think in general, he has a methodical way of going about things because of just how long he's taken to get to where he is. And of course, basically, due to his method, he's become the world's most dangerous man to the world government. So obviously a full-out frontal assault was not on the docket because that just doesn't fit with Dragon's personality. However, you expected a showing of sorts. So based on deduction and seeing the conversation with Sabo and the other revolutionaries, it seems like Sabo's goal was to save Kuma. That's why they came to marry Joa. I think the thing that changed things is after seeing the state of Kuma and him being used like a slave, basically set Sabo off. And Sabo started raging in chapter 908. And even his other comrades are trying to calm him down and say, let's think about this logically. But Sabo saying, basically, look at what they did to our comrade, which again goes back to his personality, very fiery, personal history with the world government. With all that encapsulated, of course, Sabo would feel a bit differently from the others. Of course, that's coming from a view of not knowing exactly what Morley, Karasu, Lindbergh, and what everything they went through. But Sabo, it felt a bit more personal. And of course, he was trained by Kuma as well. So he was essentially raised by Kuma. So things changed slightly, in my opinion. And then Sabo basically stated, we're not getting caught, but either we succeed or we die. Again, intense resolve, right? But I'm not sure if that's aligned with how Dragon wants to do things. You don't really get this far as a movement by basically taking a risk in which you succeed or die. Of course, they're going to have moments like that, but especially doing something like this in the Holy Land and now knowing Dragon wasn't even there, that couldn't have been part of the plan. So let's fast forward a little bit. So all this was 2 days before the Reverie. Now, the Reverie is typically 7 days, and then let's, fast forward to the 4th day of the Reverie. At that point, it was revealed to us by Blackbeard that the captains of the Revolutionary Army, they went there to save Kuma, and they clashed with Fujitora and Green Bull in the process. And again, this was on the 4th day of the Reverie. Remember, the Reverie is 7 days long, so they had 3 days after this, and they clashed on the 4th day because Sabo, in his intense resolve, he felt like he needed to save Kuma, and that was his mission at that point. So now we have to jump forward again because some more things transpired, and us not knowing all the details, we have to speculate a lot based on what's been revealed. And of course, that's also calculated by Oda to keep us in the dark and to have us speculate, but that's what we're going to do here. We see Garp, and he chronicles some things that happened at the Reverie. He mentions, well, the premise of the Reverie and the positions that most of the world government and the nobles, the positions that they hold, pretty much how they use resources and tools as leverage, and pretty much that the kings don't really care about their people. And typically when no blood is spilled, it's, considered a peaceful meeting. But then he said this meeting was a bad one, referring to the Reverie. He said this incident occurred following the close of the Reverie. Remember, Sabo and the admirals, they clashed on the 4th day of the Reverie, meaning there were 3 more days still left for things to happen. The incident regarding the Kingdom of Alabasta happened following the close of the Reverie, meaning after the Reverie, that's when the incident occurred. Meaning, more than likely, judging by how things were going with Im-Sama having Vivi's picture, Cobra wanting to discuss the ancient weapons with the world government and the Celestial Dragons, and also being an ally of Luffy, who was also on the hit list of Im-Sama, it seems like. This seems like an orchestrated plan by the world government, and I think they needed a scapegoat. Now that brings us to 956, in which we have several reactions from not only revolutionaries, we have Makino, people reacting to the news in the newspaper, and we don't know exactly what happened, but the implication is that Sabo was either captured or killed. Know what we know about Sabo. Somewhat fiery, somewhat of a hothead, not wanting to see Kuma suffer. And again, they clashed on the 4th day of the Reverie. This is not a week. And initially, based on what they're saying, the heads of the governments or the heads of the nations, they depart 1 week after the Reverie. So basically, we have another time jump, but a time we go back into the past, and we don't know exactly when. The reactions are occurring earlier in time, but we don't know exactly when they're occurring. Of course, more than likely it's after the Reverie, like directly after, like a day or so after. And again, the reactions around what's going on with Sabo. I think it's key to focus in on some of the reactions with, first off, Ivankov is saying, this is Sabo we're talking about. It's impossible. I won't believe a word of it. Dragon says his first step is to ascertain the truth. Koala has tears in her eyes. Bello Betty, she's just, sweating and saying Sabo. Makino is obviously distressed, so what's the fitting conclusion here? What the hell happened? The Don's crying as well also lent itself to numerous speculations, because the Don, being a known criminal, would she react to Sabo committing a crime? So with all that being said, like I said, I came to 2 conclusions, and most people came to these. Either Sabo was captured or Sabo is dead. Not saying that's what happened, that's what the newspaper is reporting. As much as I don't want to believe this, and as much as I don't want this to happen, the most fitting conclusion here is that Sabo is captured. His capture is more impactful than an actual death because it would happen off screen. But the world government, if they manage to capture the number 2 of the revolutionary army, it's more of a, feather in their cap. And I find it interesting in Dressrosa as well. And even every time Sabo is mentioned is like, well, he's really the number 2 of the revolutionary army. And that would be a huge blow to Dragon and his movement. And again, the reactions, they go in line with that, where Ivankov, she's like, she doesn't believe that Sabo could be captured, and Dragons, he wants to find out the truth about Sabo being captured. Koala has tears in her eyes, and the thing is, she's not completely breaking down, it's just tears, because knowing that he's captured, of course, the situation is dire. The thing is though, there is a bit of nuance with it, because I think there could be more going on. This is a perfect opportunity for the world government to turn the actual world against the revolutionaries. One of the most loved princesses in One Piece in general is Princess Vivi. And of course, she's a young princess, her dad is sick. Let's assume Cobra died. The world government could spin this in a way in which you could say, 1, Cobra died at the hands of Sabo, and he attempted to assassinate Vivi, and he was captured by the world government, and therefore he's held for capture, prepared for execution because of his attempt on Vivi's life. Of course, we know that didn't happen because they fought on the 4th day of the Reverie. Let's say they fought on the 4th day of the Reverie, and they were captured on the 4th day of the Reverie. They're using Sabo's capture earlier in that timeline to basically justify anything that would happen to Cobra, which makes sense based on not only Cobra's inquiries, but the future of Alabasta. And Blackbeard's commentary as well plays into it because he wants to go after whatever the world government wants as well. The exact words were to pack your bags onto the ship. If the Navy's only going to take it, I might as well claim the prize. So then again, that leads to the ancient weapons more than the Murmur no Mi, because people are speculating that. I don't think that's the case at all. My final assessment of this is that Sabo was actually captured. He sacrificed himself for Morley, Lindbergh, Karasu. I don't think those guys were captured, but I think Sabo, because he was the one leading the charge in a way, and I think he went against Dragon's actual wishes to basically declare war. Do something of note, but not put yourself in danger and at risk and clash with 2 Navy admirals. Sabo is actually captured. And that has led to them using him as a scapegoat, framing him, saying that he killed Cobra and he tried to assassinate Vivi. And again, we know this is not true because they clashed on the 4th day of the Reverie. So let's take a different route. Let's say they clashed on the 4th day of the Reverie and Sabo and everyone managed to get away. I don't know if you have the same reactions from everyone if Sabo just attempted an assassination. Right? Like if say Sabo, like say Cobra is dead and the news reads King of Alabasta dead, murdered by the number 2 in the Revolutionary Army, Sabo, murdered by the number 2 in the Revolutionary Army, Sabo, Princess Vivi kidnapped. The reactions wouldn't make sense. Dadan wouldn't be crying because it's like, well, Sabo is being Sabo. Koala wouldn't be crying as well. It has to be something dire to the point that they really have to verify that this information is true. So I think no matter what, I think it makes sense that Sabo is captured. It also goes in line with Sabo's whole mantra, whereas he wants to be there for Luffy and he doesn't want to suffer through the same fate of knowing that he couldn't do anything for his brother. It's an interesting twist and turn in which at this point he can't do anything for Luffy and Luffy has to be the one to save him because he sacrificed himself for a friend or a mentor. Yeah, we might see Marineford 2.0, but of course it's going to be amplified because it's going to involve the Revolutionary Armies as well, because Dragon, he can't sit by and let the number 2 of the Revolutionary Army get publicly executed. Yeah, that's my assessment on that. A bit of a mouthful, but I felt like it was necessary to go through all these different steps to show exactly why I think the way I do. So yeah, Sabo's captured, in my opinion. I think that makes the most sense based on the reactions mostly. I don't normally trust like the reports of the world government because even if they report that Sabo assassinated or Cobra's dead or all these different things, it could be completely different from the truth because they're trying to always control the narrative in regards to what is actually going on. So yeah, it should be really good. It should be really good. And I don't know when we're going to get anything else on the world government or what's going on with Sabo. Oda may try to throw it in there at some point in Wano, but it seems like Wano is going towards more so Odin stuff for the rest of the year. I think we're pretty much Odin'd out. Well, I think based on reactions and just overall interest in Odin, it seems like diehard One Piece fans or just people that talk about One Piece regularly are more interested in the Odin backstory than, I don't know, casual fans, because they're like, well, we know a lot about Odin. I'm not sure if there's much more I want to know. And it's like, well, I think there's a lot we can find. Let's do something interesting in this video. Leave a One Piece topic you're really in addition to your Sabo comment and the subject that has the most